Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Ray with DRP Motorsports, and today we're going to be tuning our 2020 Shelby GT500 via HB Tuner software. So what is tuning? Well, in today's world, tuning is altering a vehicle's ECM or PCM programming in order to achieve more power for the physical aspects of the engine or vehicle. Back in the old days, it was, changing out carburetor jets to get the proper air-fuel ratio, turning distributors to advance or retard ignition timing. In the diesel world, it was, advancing the timing on the mechanical injection pump to achieve more power. This day and time, all that is controlled electronically by the vehicle's powertrain control module or engine control module, which is nothing more than a computer box on the vehicle. And with that, we don't have to actually turn wrenches to tune a vehicle anymore. We just simply go in with a computer software program, reprogram the ECM, change parameters such as timing advance, air-fuel ratio, changing torque limitations, removing limiters, so on and so forth, and we can completely change how the engine operates, and even goes right along with the transmission. Most automatic transmissions are electronically controlled this day and time too, so we can alter how those function with electronic tuning. With electronic tuning, we have the option to do it remotely, where a customer can buy a tuning device that is small, compact, that can be installed on the vehicle, plugged in, stay plugged in all the time, and we can email files for a customer to download to their tuning device and program their vehicle with it. We can do it like I'm going to do it today with a laptop in person, and there's a lot that we can do. Now, with regards to tuning, tuning is not a magical way to unlock gobs of power with just pushing a button, particularly with gasoline vehicles. Tuning a gasoline vehicle shows its benefits when you're tuning because of a physical change that was done to the vehicle, whether that was parts or, for example, a different fuel, such as high-octane pump gas, high-octane racing gasoline, or even an alcohol-based fuel such as E85, or parts changes. If you add long tube headers to, say, a Mustang like this, or you change fuel injectors, or you change a pulley on a supercharger, or you add a supercharger or a turbo to an engine that wasn't originally had forced induction, tuning enables those physical changes to show the power potential that they can bring. So in a gasoline vehicle, simply tuning a vehicle because of no physical changes being done to the car, whether it's fueling or parts, it's not going to unlock gobs of horsepower. I mean, you might can remove a few limiters or so on and so forth and see a slight noticeable change in the vehicle's performance, but it's not going to unlock just great amount of power. Now in the diesel world, that's a different story. I've tuned diesels, and most diesel engines are forced induction with a turbocharger. That turbocharger is capable of pushing more air than the factory programmed the engine fuel wise to combust efficiently. Diesel engines are overbuilt so they can handle more power. So with a diesel, it's a little different. You can electronically alter the programming on those, fuel injector pulse width, fuel injector timing, remove torque limiter, so on and so forth, and they pick up substantial amount of power with just tuning alone. But that's the diesel world, not the gasoline world. Gasoline engines are a little bit different. So you tune a gasoline to enable the parts or the fuel that you have in use to make their most potential power. So now that we've covered tuning, let's talk about what we're going to do to our GT500 today. Well, in the last episode, you seen I added a JLT big air intake to this car. And by removing the restriction of the factory air filter box and intake tube, this car picked up about 30 rear wheel horsepower by simply installing that. I looked at the data logs from that last dyno pool, and I noticed that there was no knock retard. Actually, there was a small stretch during that dyno pool where the knock sensors actually said, okay, you can add more timing, and the car was trying to add more timing to make best power. So that tells me that the fuel that we have in the tank right now is possibly capable of supporting a little more ignition timing advance. So we're going to add a little timing to this car, not much, just a gradual step, because we don't want to hurt anything. This is forced induction, so you have to be careful. All right, guys, we're going to write the tune to the car. Turn the ignition on. Right vehicle. All right, guys, we just got through flashing the both the ECM and TCM in our 2020 Shelby GT500. Next step is to check everything as far as with the car being strapped to the dyno, warm it up, and make a dyno run and see if we pick up any power with the changes we made. All right, guys, we got everything ready to go to make our dyno pull. Start the car. Atmospheric conditions were very similar to our last dyno pull. Temperature in the shop is around 60 degrees. The A is around 0, which is about where it was before. Only difference now since our last pull with the JLT intake installed is we've tuned this car. We've added a little bit of time in advance and made a little reduction on catalyst temperature control. And let's see if we pick up any power. Let's see how we did. Alright, first attempt. We made 713 horsepower compared to the 711 last time. Torque was about the same. Guys, look at the graph from about 4,500 to even all the way up to the RPM cutoff. Notice the difference in the graph. Look at the increase in the curve. Looking at the top graph, which is our torque, at 5,600 RPMs roughly, we're making 563 pound-feet of torque compared to 541 with factory calibration. And horsepower wise, we're making 599 versus 575. So that right there, although we're not making much difference in peak horsepower, that little bit of timing, that little bit of reduction in catalyst protection has put more power in the curve, and that's power that'll be noticeable on the street. Not necessarily peak numbers, but streetable power. So see that increase in the curve? That's what we were after. Okay guys, looking at the data log, it appears that it would be safe to add another degree of ignition timing advance, so that's what we're going to do. The catalyst over temp protection change that I made worked fine. I think it might have helped just a little bit with peak power, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Don't want to melt the cat. So what we're going to do now is flash a new tune to this car and give it a little, one more degree of time in advance, and see if it picks up any more power. It may not, just depending on how good the octane is in the fuel and how much heat soak is in the engine, but we're going to give it a shot and see if we get any gains. All right guys, we got our second tune loaded to the car, and like I said, the only change is one more degree of time in advance, and we're going to make a pull and see if that makes any difference or not. So we got our scanner going. Start the car, get back up to about the same 185, 190 coolant temp, and make a pull. Let's see how we did. Here to the last tune. All right, last tune. We did 713. This time we done 706. And looks like power was down all the way across the curve. So we either got heat soak going on, or the car did not like that extra degree of timing. So we're going to look at the data log and check it out. All right guys, I just made that second pull with the second tune, and looking at the data log, it shows my suspicion that it did not like one more degree of timing, and that's why we only bumped it up 1 degree. Had knock retard starting to kick in. The knock sensors started noticing just a little bit of knock, and it pulled timing. So we know that the tune 1 was basically the limit for the octane that we have in the tank. And that's why we make steps gradually when we tune a car. We don't make abrupt changes, because if you make an abrupt change, then you can hurt something. So given the octane that's in the tank right now, which is 93 octane, the first mod that we made tune wise to the car was actually the limit and the peak of what we could get. As you saw on the dyno graph, we made 713 rear wheel horsepower peak with our tune that we put on the car. But what was most important was the area under the curve. There was a noticeable increase in both power and torque with our first tune compared to the baseline pull with the factory calibration with the JLT intake. So I'm gonna call that done for the fuel that we've got in the tank, as far as timing and other things that we can do in the tune with making power with the factory RPM limit. Now we can reprogram this car to where it will run past the 7500 factory RPM limit. By doing so, we're going to, in theory, spin the supercharger faster have the engine working faster, which all adds together means more air taken in and consumed and more power made. So if we rev this car, say 8,000 RPMs versus 7,500, we could probably pick up maybe, I don't know, 10 rear wheel horsepower realistically. But for me, it's not worth it for my car. I'm not going to rev my car that high. This is my pride and joy, and I don't want to beat on it. I want to take it out on the street and enjoy it for what it is. Maybe later on down the road, I might throw some long tube headers on this car, and by doing so will help the car breathe out the exhaust a little better with the factory boost, factory pulley on the supercharger, and that'll probably pick up some horsepower that is streetable. But for now, I'm not going to do any more mods to the car other than just simply putting on this JLT intake as far as for power. I'm satisfied with the power increase that I did with the first tune. Just goes to show you, tunes can unlock a little more power, but it's not, a tune itself is not going to make a drastic change in the overall output of the car. So as always, thank you guys for following along on our channel. We'll be making more videos in the future with this car and other cars and trucks that we have come in the shop. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you again soon.